Good evening to the dignitaries on the dais. Sir, Padmanabhaiah ji, I have a question regarding the Article 370. Why has it not been scrapped all these years? Do you think it's just because of the vote bank politics, or else the political affiliations, or else something else?
What has not been scrapped?
Article 370, the special privilege to the Kashmir.
Okay. Okay. Have you read 370? What does it say?
Special privileges to Kashmir.
Okay. Okay. Doesn't matter. Let me explain from there or here. You know, there is a chapter in the Constitution called Special and Temporary Provisions. The chapter itself is called that. 370 relates to 371 onwards. There are 20 provisions, special provisions relating to Nagaland, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Tripura, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh. For all these states there are special provisions. So this is because India is such a vast country. In fact, there are special provisions for Goa. There are special provisions for Sikkim. You know, it is a whole lot. Because India was not formed in one go. You know, Sikkim came at a particular time, Goa came at another time, and there are backward areas. For example, Telangana here at that time, and in Gujarat, Saurashtra and Kutch areas, and in the northeast, various areas. And so special provisions had to be made for each one of these. So there is nothing special about 370 or Kashmir. If your focus is only on Kashmir, then it looks as if there is a special provision only for Kashmir. There are special provisions depending on the areas, their problems, their history, their historical background and all that. One second. The Northeast is concerned, the special provisions are because those tribes, they do not want some other laws from India. In fact, these areas were called at one time excluded areas in the Northeast. I don't know if you are aware of it. Completely excluded from the government of India. Even when the Governor General was ruling, the Viceroy, it says none of the provisions of the government of India, any law of government of India, would apply to those areas in Nagaland unless the Nagaland Assembly says that they would be applicable to us. You follow that? Then in Manipur, certain areas it says, no law made by the Manipur Assembly also would apply to certain areas unless there are autonomous areas there, hills, unless the people of those hills representing them accept these things. Because this is to preserve their culture, their special, this one and all that. Now 370 came, it's a very complex question. 370 came at a time when Kashmir did not merge with us. There are two things. One is, acceding to India. The second is merging. There are two things. There are two steps in the merging of Indian states, all the states. First, they acceded to India, saying that except in the case of defense, external affairs and certain things, we accede to India. Then there is a merger agreement. You know, they have completely merged their areas. In the case of Kashmir, when the constitution was done, the merger did not take place. It was only the accession. He has acceded. That accession also has taken under different circumstances. Then one more thing is, by the time the Kashmir was being sort of integrated into India, by the time the independence came, there was an agitation in Kashmir for Nai Kashmir movement. You know, there was a Maharaja. This chap, what is his name? Sheikh Abdullah wanted to throw him out and wanted to establish a democratic this one. So there was a move already to have a constitution. You follow? They had already constituted a constituent assembly for that. And what happened? Our Indian leaders encouraged them because there must be democratic rule in that particular area. So it is under those circumstances that a constitution was made there. And that constitution was working, and our constitution also was working simultaneously. Constitution of India was working here for India. That constitution was working for Kashmir. And then there are a lot of coordination. They said, in that Kashmir constitution, you should say that you would join Indian Union unconditionally. Similarly, here we have said that they have joined unconditionally. But certain provisions we have left to the constitution, this one, because the agitation was already going on. And there they didn't want, for example, in India, I would tell you, their main plank was this one, new land policy. The land which was there with the king, the Maharaja, was to be taken over and to be distributed to various people. In India, the land legislation was being attacked by the Supreme Court. If you remember, all our land laws which we had made, they have all been struck down by the Supreme Court. And so we had to create another, this one, what is called Schedule 10, I think, where all the laws were put. The following laws shall not be questioned in the judiciary. Now they were afraid that if the fundamental rights are incorporated in the Kashmir constitution, their land laws also would suffer. So that's why there were negotiations going on. It is under those circumstances that 370 was brought in. And 370 says below that, if there is any change to be made in this section, in 370, it has to be referred back to the Constituent Assembly. There is no Constituent Assembly now in Kashmir. It is possible that if you want to abolish it, that you can ask Kashmiri fellows to to have a new Constituent Assembly. And then that Constituent Assembly has to say that please remove this particular clause. That's one procedure. Are you prepared to do that? Do you want to reopen the whole Pandora's box and then say Kashmir should have a Constituent Assembly? Suppose the Constituent Assembly tomorrow says Kashmir should be independent. What would you do? There are unknowns. The second point is, what is the benefit you get by abolishing 370? 370 was done saying that certain provisions of the Indian Constitution, the most essential part of 370 is, certain provisions of the Constitution of India will not apply to Jammu Kashmir unless Jammu Kashmir government itself agrees to those. That's what it says. That was the original understanding in up to 1953. But thereafter, year after year, in fact you may not like it, year after year, Government of India in a very surreptitious manner, that means without telling them, pushed all the laws. Today there is no law in India which does not apply to Jammu and Kashmir except two. Their governor is for 6 years, whereas our governors are for 5 years. Two, President's rule does not apply there directly. They have what is called governor's rule. Except these two, in CBI jurisdiction there is something. Except these three, everything else in Government of India was pushed very slowly year after year. In fact, the Kashmiris' complaint is that, now if you want to abolish it, it makes no difference to you. It is foolish, to abolish it. It doesn't benefit you at all. You are unnecessarily raking up something which will open a Pandora's box without giving you any benefit. That's why we should not touch 370. Okay?
So the question is that, sir, isn't it ridiculous that the Indian Union provides funds to Kashmir from the taxes of public, but the Indian public can't go into Kashmir and buy land over there?
In Northeast, you cannot buy land. Officers, government of India officers who are posted in the Northeast cannot buy land. In fact, I wanted to make an exception to that. These are officers of All India services posted in Nagaland. Working for you, how do you say that you cannot buy land there? So these laws are there in Uttarakhand, all those field areas, Uttarakhand also. So tourism is very, very